not discussed ETH. I will end with this, then I do have to go. I have a hard stop coming up. All right, one notable thing on a larger perspective here, or perspective, is Ethereum did just hit an origin line. It's not a principal origin line, which are these thicker ones. So that one, and that one are more your primary. And this is probably a good bottom area. If it keeps falling, it's very likely going to hit this line before it's done, which is targeting around $1,000. But it did just come up and bump its head on an origin line. And these origin lines do work. Like, for example, bounce, 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 broke the line and tanked. Exactly where? Exactly at the origin line. Like, these origin lines work. That's notable because if it doesn't get above that origin line and use it as support, it's likely going to make a lower low. Right? So with that idea, let's zoom in and see how it's using that origin line. It's between worlds. It hasn't necessarily used that origin line as resistance yet, so it's in question. Ethereum does have in the cards to continue charging up with Bitcoin, because these lines really do work. Like they have that specific of rules. I mean, look. It didn't use it as resistance, didn't use the line as resistance, came up, used it as resistance, and what was the perfect short point? Exactly when it used it as resistance, kablam, right? But this is not as clear. This has total permission to come down to the 1 hour, for example. You don't have to forcibly choose the 1 hour 200 as your cure-all, like snake oil, but it really does work. I could easily see this hitting the 1 hour, which is like the daily 10, the 1 hour 200 EMA, then getting well above this origin line here and continuing up. Ethereum looks, but it is between worlds. I don't see a lot of edge either way based off this one analysis. I could put on, let's see here, range, macro. Nope, it's below the range. So this looks really bad. Let's actually look at it like this on a more macro sense. On a macro sense, let me take off the origin lines. On a macro sense, just look at this. This was its accumulation zone. So what does this tell you? This, on the other hand, more on the bigger picture. This looks bad. That looks real bad. But in the meantime, it could easily come all the way up to here. And maybe even go above and fail it. Like this. Or some version of it like that, a perfect rejection. So this is the difference between time frames. The daily looks awful, like real bad. But if you zoom into this, there's a lot of money to be made from here to here. A lot of money. So let's zoom into that and just consider that one candle that I have here from current price up to that line, and let's zoom into the 1 hour. %. That's highly tradable. Yeah, that'd be days and days of playtime for longs. Smaller time frames look like they could easily really charge up. But the daily time frame looks like shit because this arrow might be big on the 1 hour chart, but on the daily, this is just a blip before it continues going down. So don't get confused on my analysis. I really think that the short-term time frames do want to keep going up after a pullback. So I can see Ethereum come down a little bit first, like this. And then get straight up there, and that would be equivalent to potentially Bitcoin 36K. Let's see. If that were to happen, I think that's 12. That means Bitcoin dominance would have to start falling or take a breather. So 36K. Nope, it wouldn't. That's more than Ethereum. That actually aligns perfectly. Actually, it looks like it's going to hit that line. Honestly, I think that's a freaking solid guess. It looks like it could, over the next week and a half, it has permission to easily hit 21.9. Or, I mean, sorry, 21.95. 21.95. However, my Bitcoin analysis does mention that it might be forming a lower local high. So it could actually do shrink and then head down from there And the way we'll analyze this better, which one will happen? Will the big arrow happen or will the small arrow happen? We cannot tell until the bounce. We can interact. We can see price interact with a bounce point. That is when you'll be able to better guess. Is it going to be the small arrow or the large arrow? But as of now, it seems a little bit more likely that you'll get continuation after pullback. But that could easily change with how the pullback happens and where it goes to, like just the interaction of the 5-minute candles with something like the 1 hour 200 EMA. And that would be my guess for Ethereum. So I might not lean too heavily on this, but as of now, that'd be my guess. But I think this is a second good candidate. And if the second candidate happens, that'd mean a lower high before continuation to the downside. These are my top 2 most likely scenarios. But both of them lead to at least this point. Just one keeps going and one doesn't. And that level would be somewhere close to 2,000 even. So hit that psychological number for a lower high, then continue down lower lows, lower than 1,700, which would mean Bitcoin also starts heading down, and the traditional stock market would start heading down, within the next 2 days, which is totally reasonable. So therefore, these 2 price paths look extraordinarily likely. One version of these instead of shooting down the middle. Something close to this over the next 10 days seems pretty likely to happen for Ethereum.